Hi guys, it's Ken from webdesign.com. Today we're going to talk about how to properly select a hosting company. A hosting company is a very vital aspect for your website. Once the day has come and you decided to do it like the big guys do, you need to choose a hosting company that allows you to focus on creating high quality content rather than on keeping an eye how your hosting company does its job and if they actually do it. You want your hosting company to be as reliable and stable as possible. Sure thing, guys. I'd like you to watch all the screencasts that I've put together for you. But if you want to run a WordPress site and you need a quick solution, which is nonetheless reliable as well, you can just go to bluehost.com because that's the hosting company that WordPress recommends on their site. So if you need a fast answer to which hosting company to use, bluehost.com is the way to go. Now, in case you want to really understand what you need to take into consideration when you choose a hosting company, keep on watching. Before we go any further, I need to point your attention to the fact that your hosting company is one of the factors that will determine the future of your online business. That's actually where your site is gonna live, and you should make sure that it's as comfortable as possible. If you select a wrong hosting company, you can just waste your time or even lose all your data when a disaster strikes. So no monkey business here. Alright, moving on. It's sort of hard to say how much space you'll need. It depends on what you want to do on your site. You can start with just 50 megabytes and chances are it'll be more than enough just to get you started. If you have in mind to deploy a whole lot of images, audio files, videos, you should be ready to buy a bigger hosting plan before you know it. Even if you're being said that your web space and bandwidth are unlimited, you'll see for yourself they are not. So just get ready. The usual gimmick that hosting companies try to surprise you with is unlimited hosting space and bandwidth. Nothing comes unlimited in this world, and so are bandwidth and hosting space. They may seduce you with such promises before you buy, but once you buy your hosting plan and have a spike in your website traffic, you'll be kindly prompted to switch over to a bigger plan. And that just means paying money for something that you've already paid for. At least it sounds exactly like that. If it's unlimited, why pay more for more space, right? So, in case you expect to host audio or video files on your server, you'll be asked to increase your hosting space. If you have a whole lot of traffic on your site, you'll have the same suggestion from your host. Bottom line, you really need to keep it in mind and have some extra money handy and ready for overage charges. Okay, moving on. You need to make sure before buying a hosting plan that you'll have full control over your files on the server. You should be able to create, delete, edit, and do whatever you see fit at any time. There should be no restrictions. You also need to make sure that your hosting company supports the technologies and coding languages that your site needs. But that's not an issue for most hosts because the majority of them supports all you need for running a WordPress site. In order to be able to easily manage files and databases on your hosting server, you'll need a cPanel and PHPMyAdmin or any alternatives to them. So contact your hosting provider and check with them if they provide those tools as well. Alright, moving on. You may be perplexed as for what kind of hosting to use, Linux or Windows. You may think like this: I'm on a Windows computer, so I need a Windows hosting plan. In case I'm on a Linux, I'll need the Linux option. Now, what if I'm on a Mac? Which way should I go in that case? Well, the thing is that you just need to use Linux hosting, regardless of which platform you're on, be it Windows, Linux, Mac, whatever. Just use a Linux server for your site. Though Microsoft has released Windows server support for WordPress as well, I would not recommend using it just because I can't see any benefits. I mean, you'll have to learn how to do it, while Linux hosting will just work and work perfectly. and just about every hosting company rep can easily help you with that. But if you are a really techie one and love to dig deeper and investigate such sort of issues, feel free. Other than that, Linux hosting is usually cheaper, and it's the industry standard because about 70% of websites are hosted specifically on Linux servers. Now, it's perfect timing to talk about compatibility. Though WordPress is not very picky comparing to others, you still need to make sure that your hosting company is compatible with it. As of now, the official requirements are as follows: PHP version 5.2.4 or greater, and MySQL version 5.0 or greater. You may still be unsure or unwilling to check those requirements on your own. In that case, you can just email your hosting company and ask them whether you'll be able to run a WordPress site on their servers. Simple as that. Okay, moving on. You also want to check their online reputation, because if there is an issue with their services, most likely there is some evidence somewhere on the web. You can just do a simple Google search for the company name. If they are a really wise company, they may have done some online reputation management as well, and they made sure that there's nothing negative about them on the first 2 pages of search results. That's why you need to do a more in-depth checkup and take a look at as deep as 5-6 pages. If you can't find any really well-grounded negative reviews or comments, you're pretty much good to go. Alright, to the next slide. Chances are you'll be overwhelmed by the options that most hosting companies offer in terms of hosting server types. I really suggest listening to my explanations because you'll be way more comfortable with those terms after that. The first option is free hosting. As you may have expected, there is always a catch in such things. You'll either have banners somewhere on your site, or the hosting will be super unreliable. And the best thing is that you can't even complain about it, because you don't actually pay for that damn thing. Well, you don't pay in cash, but you pay with yours and your visitors' eyeballs. In either case, it's not a good idea to save on your online business. Just remember that if you're not offered a product, then you are the product. The next option is shared WordPress hosting. It's when you share the same physical server with a lot of sites. Such accounts are cheap, but the problem is that even if they say it's, the whole shebang is unlimited and stuff, you will experience bandwidth restrictions if your site goes really viral. So the catch is that it's not really unlimited, but in this case your hosting is more reliable comparing to the free hosting scenario. The next type of servers is WordPress VPS hosting. VPS stands for Virtual Private Server. It's much like shared hosting, but in the case of VPS you can install separate server software, which gives you more control over your site. Plus, if you're not exactly tech savvy, you can have the host manage your server, like doing upgrades, updates, things like that. The next option is WordPress Dedicated Server. This kind of servers allows you to use a separate physical server without sharing it with someone else. The advantage is that you have a complete control over your server. Your hosting company provides you with a rep, administrator, that manages your server. Plus, you'll be able to get phone tech support if needed. You need to go for a dedicated server only if you have huge traffic. Otherwise, it will be just an overkill. And the last option is managed WordPress hosting. You can run WordPress only on such servers. So if you want to run a different CMS, you'll have to buy another hosting account. In case you really just need the WordPress installed on your server, you're good to go right away. The good news is that such servers are extremely optimized for WordPress, and you won't have to worry about anything. Security, upgrades, updates, backups, you name it. Everything is done for you. The only thing that can disappoint you a bit on such a server is the price. It's on the higher end of the scale. Duh, this sort of solution is perfect for the non-techies who just want to focus on, high quality content creation without going into all that geeky stuff. Speaking of which, before you actually make a purchase, I highly recommend to test how the customer support departments of your hosting company works. Make sure to contact specifically their tech support department on the phone, chat, and ticket system. Doing so will clearly show you what you can expect when a real issue takes place. I pointed out that you need to contact their support department because that's going to be the place where people will transfer you to when a tech issue occurs. It's not okay to just get in touch with billing or pre-sales because they have nothing to do with fixing tech issues, tech things when something goes wrong on your server. Also, double check if your hosting company has a comprehensive FAQ page, round-the-clock chat, phone, and email support. If it's the case, you can surely move on to the next step. And the main reason why you may need to contact tech support would be the time when your site is down, which brings us to the next topic. There are hosting companies that boast about their 100% uptime, which is simply impossible. What I'm trying to say here is that if they ever update their server software or hardware, they're just supposed to restart it. They're supposed to restart their servers, right? And that means your site will be unavailable for some time. And that's okay, because it's exactly how things are operated on the web. That's how it works. Though you will stumble upon companies that promise 100% uptime, some are very reputable ones, just remember that it's a lie. And if they lie about that, you can be sure that they are honest with you about the rest related to their services. So you want to stay away from such companies, or if not, at least be, really vigilant. The standard uptime percentage is 99.9%, and that's enough for running a website in a reliable way. I'm really starting to think that when they say 100%, they mean 99%, because I believe I've heard it from all major hosting companies. And moving on to another extremely crucial aspect. As far as security goes, you need to make sure that your hosting company provides 128-bit SSL certificate encryption. That's especially important if you want to do some e-commerce on your site. Alternatively, if you don't want to mess with the technicalities of SSL, you can just use a payment gateway such as PayPal or Google Checkout. Other than that, you need to double check if their server supports SFTP, which is a different FTP protocol, but a safer one. Also, make sure that the server supports SUPHP because it allows you to make your hosting even more secure. Having taken care of your site's security, you need to make sure that it's fast as well. Your site should be really fast because it ensures that your visitors will not leave your site just because it does not load fast enough. Plus, site speed is another growing factor in SEO. You can use pinging to see how quick your site is. If you are on a Mac, select Go, then Utilities, then Terminal, and then just type ping and your site address. In case you are on a Windows computer, it's pretty similar. Go to Start, then Run, then type in CMD, hit Enter, and then just type in ping and your site address. The result should be about 80-100 milliseconds or lower. The values can be way higher if your host is located in a different country. If you're not happy with your pinging results, you may want to contact your hosting provider and ask what's wrong. And speaking about email, as a rule of thumb, you need to use an email address that is branded with your domain name. For example, in my particular case, instead of using webdizzy@gmail.com, I need to use ken@webdizzy.com or admin@webdizzy.com because it makes me look more official and reliable. Though it's not a biggie, at least in my humble opinion, you still need to make sure that you'll be able to set up an email address in this format: your name at yourdomain.com. And a few more tips just for you guys. The first tip is to buy your domain name fast. It's a good idea to first come up with the domain name for a site and then buy hosting account. But don't hesitate with buying hosting once you're ready with your domain name, because some say that good domain names mysteriously get occupied after you find them. I'm not exactly sure how that happens, but it's highly likely that it's possible to sniff it up with the help of some script which checks which domain name has been searched for. So once you found a nice domain name, buy it right off the bat. Another tip is to buy your domain name for 5-10 years so that nobody buys it after it gets obvious that you are their competitor. The next tip is don't shop on prices. You don't really want to shop on prices because most cheap solutions have strings attached, and those strings are not too pleasant most of the time. Instead, you can just check recommendations and reviews of the hosting company that you consider using. Just use Google for Google for the name of your hosting company. That works way better because if a hosting company is more than a year old, you should have reviews out there. Just see what real people say about your future hosting company and do your best to understand if you can live with what those people are saying about the experience with the home of your future site. The next tip is called due diligence, and here's what I mean. You also want to check how old and legit the company is. You can easily do it with the help of the Whois service. If the company is younger than a year, you need to be really cautious in such cases. Not that I'm saying, that it's going to be bad experience for sure. No. It just may be or may not be tricky. That's all I'm saying. The next tip is Fantastico. If you're not a techie, you may also want Fantastico available on your hosting server. Fantastico is an auto-installer for cPanel services, which translates into the ability to install all sorts of CMSs at the click of a button. If you have Fantastico on your server, on your hosting, you'll be able to install WordPress in a hassle-free way. I'd recommend using Fantastico if you want to run a non-profit site, because with the simplicity, Fantastico also brings less control and more vulnerabilities, which you don't want to have if your whole family relies on your website performance. Plus, if you install with the help of Fantastico, your version of WordPress is not the latest and greatest one. And the last tip. If they offer trial periods, make sure to take advantage of that, because it's the most surefire way to see if the hosting is exactly what the doctor ordered. Now, I'd like to scare you just a bit now. Make sure to keep in mind the following warnings. Don't believe the hosting companies that promise you 100% uptime. It does not exist in reality. If your hosting company ever upgrades their hardware or updates their software, they just have to restart their servers. That's the time when your site will be down. It may range from a few seconds or minutes, rather minutes, to a few hours, well, if something goes wrong on the server. But such things are just inevitable if your hosting company does its best to stay up to date. So every time you see or read that your hosting is always up, it's just a gimmick, nothing else. One more buzzword that you can hear from your hosting company is unlimited. Just like in the case with the 100% uptime, unlimited disk space and data transfer, again, they just don't exist in reality. Even if you get tempted and buy an unlimited plan, they will either restrict your data transfer speed, slowing down your site, or just kindly ask you to buy a better hosting plan. Be sure to always get a hard number of the RAM and CPU that you can confidently use with a particular hosting plan. It's just naive to believe that you'll be able to use the same hosting plan when your site goes from 0 to hero, because your site will just use more space and more processor power the hosting company provides for that hosting plan. Just be ready to pull out your wallet. The next warning is called Your Name and Whois Record. If a hosting company offers you a free domain if you use their services, make sure to check the Whois record of your domain name. Chances are it will be your hosting company, but not you. So make sure to do some due diligence before you pay hard cash for something that you don't own. The thing is that the legit owner of a domain is the one who is in the Whois record. And the last warning. It's called forcing to yearly plans. Another bad sign is when a hosting company forces you to buy a yearly plan instead of a monthly one. Odds are, along with just, wanting your money, they're trying to hide something from you, and it'll be way more difficult to cancel their services if you embark for a year. Now, let's make sure that you've memorized the main points. If you are not sure whether your site will go big, just buy a moderate hosting plan. You'll be able to build up later. Your hosting company will be just happy to help you with that. Though you don't want to hunt for bargains if you run a profitable online business, there is no actual reason to overpay either. Just buy what you need now, plus the amount of disk space that you'll need for your first year. Don't buy based on the gimmicks like 100% uptime, unlimited disk space, and data transfer, especially if the prices are way too low and too good to be true. You get what you pay for. If a hosting company you consider working with offers a free trial, don't hesitate to take advantage of that. And the last thing, you really need to make sure that their tech support works as you expect. Contact them via phone, chat, or email before you pay the money. Most hosting companies, well, and not only hosting companies, are pretty efficient in pre-sales, but when it comes to tech support with a really bugging tech issue, the whole company can resemble apocalypse with nobody alive who can help you. If you can get in touch with their tech support real quick, it's a very good sign. Such a company is really worth your while. In case you have any questions, feel free to contact me either via email or Skype. The details are on the screen right now. If you think the screencast was worth your while, feel free to like the video by clicking the like button. You can also share it on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+. And if you'd like to learn more about SEO, web design, and development, just click this link to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for your time, and bye now.